to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am Rob, along with my co-host as always, Tina. How are you doing, Tina?
I am hanging in there, Rob, but I am being stretched thin.
Yay!
No,
You're
I didn't say I was
there.
getting
You're
thin. I said I was being stretched thin.
No, but you're hanging in there. That's enough to get applause for.
It's a lot. It's a lot. At any given time, there are 3 people in our house that have serious illnesses. My dad just started his chemo today, and my cousin that is with me has a bunch of health issues, and so does a friend of mine. And taking care of them and trying to get this house together and getting ready for the 4th of July and trying to work myself. Man, I am done. Done.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're in need of the 3-day weekend.
I'm in need of something, but it's more than a 3-day weekend.
Yeah, I hear you. I am doing my surgery.
Yeah.
On the 14th. So I'm going to be in a sling and out of work for a little while.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
And that's the day of my mother's 14th anniversary of her passing.
That's what you said.
Yeah. So that normally right before 4th of July till after that, the energy that I have to gear up is a lot. And it's a hard time to do that because I feel like I'm mourning her death up until the date. And then after the date is gone, then there's like a release. But that energy that builds has been pretty intense. So it's been a lot.
Right. Well, let's hope that this year is not as bad. But like you said, there's a lot going on in your life. So, I just think that these days it's a day at a time. I'm doing my best. I've told you off air before that I'm starting to have dreams about my surgery.
Yeah.
So obviously my subconscious is kicking the shit out of me. And here's the weirder thing. There are people in my dreams that I don't talk much to anymore. And then there's people who I haven't talked to in a long time. And I'm talking like years and years and years. So like there's a bunch of weird shit going on top of my head. Yeah, it's odd, but yeah.
I think that's good though. I think it's good that your body or your brain's processing and trying to get everything ready because that's a big deal. And I'm sure being single and having a shoulder surgery is kind of scary. Like, how are you going to get around? What are you going to do? And what are you going to need? So,
yeah. And my kid's only taking 1 day off. He's only taking the surgery day off. So it's going to be the next day I'm on my own. And I don't know a lot of people in town. So I don't really have a lot of people to lean on.
I could go out there.
Yeah. But I mean, just, if there was something, look, if I really, 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 really have to, I can call somebody tomorrow and I'm sure they would help me because, it's not like we don't like each other. So
right.
We just don't talk a lot. So I'm sure if I really had to, if I needed to make a call, they would be there for me. So it's just going to be it's a learning curve, got to learn how to wipe my butt.
Did you get a bidet?
I haven't yet, but I'm shopping for one right now.
Okay.
There's a few things I have to shop for. Here's the other thing. I have no shoes that don't have laces.
Oh.
So I'm going to go to Walmart and buy like a cheapy ass pair of slides and a cheapy pair of slip-ons.
You should go to get some Skechers. They have those easy on, easy off ones that.
Oh yeah. So I just need something kind of just, look, I'm going to spend time away from home if I can, besides my physical therapy, just so I don't go loony.
Yeah.
That's another thing. And I'm going to try to read as much as I can. I'm going to work on the show.
You can always go get in our pool too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My tattoo will be healed here in another week. So I could.
Yeah.
I'm going to really work on the show and kind of do some writing and kind of see if we can't get ahead. Since we're going to have some months to do some things. So, but yeah, I'm sure I'm going to be lonely because my kid works. It'll just be me and my dog. So, and speaking, that was a
A segue into our.
That was a segue into the show. Did you like that?
Yeah.
You know, I've been working on that kind of stuff too. We're going to talk loneliness, and I think as we get older, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
For one, people leave the house. So let's say you're single and or you have a spouse who's passed away, or you've just got a divorce, you know, things like of that nature. You end up with a lot of alone time. Where I was talking to you sort of off the air about they think that there's a loneliness epidemic with men.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why, or what they think is, where men have a very small friend group, very small generally, of men, very small group of men that are friends with each other. So we have a very tight group. And then if they end up with girlfriends or wives or whatever, it becomes even harder to see them. Where women generally have a much larger friend group. So their loneliness is much less. And where women, I think, talk to each other more, like even on the daily, even if it's through, you know, messaging app, texting, whatever it is. Where men, I think you stay within your little friend group, but you don't get to see them physically enough. So we end up being alone more.
Right.
Which is a dangerous thing for men because the suicide rate is so high.
That kind of blows my mind too, because the way we were raised and the way that I see men, they're so strong and they don't need anything. And I don't know when that started or why I think like that, but it's kind of odd talking about it because I never put thought into it. And then when I did, I was like, holy crap, I totally dropped the ball on that.
I think it's because we wear the macho mask. We have to give off the bravado of being okay and in control. And this is why I think when men take their lives, it's a shock to a lot of people because we don't show it to anyone and then we just do it. There was a video, I don't think I sent it to you, but I should have. It was like 4 home movies of men who killed themselves, and it was within like 2 or 3 days of them doing it. And it was like, one of them was really bad. It was a guy by himself, like taking a video with like his birthday, just him alone. There was nobody there. Which that one, you know, I understand. I've had a lot of birthdays by myself. But like some of the ones where it was like a father at a table with young children, like a normal everyday life, and like 2 days later took his own life.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think with men, we end up wearing a very large mask, and we don't tell our male friends either.
That's true. You guys don't talk the way women do by any means.
I think men who have a lot of female friends will let the mask slip more with them, because I think that we don't, with the right female friends, we don't feel like we're going to be judged.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a very small group within those female friends as well. Where you don't want to lean too hard on some people because they may think you're weak and say something. So it's a very hit or miss thing for men. It's kind of like where I hear like women will talk about men that they're looking for. Like, I want this kind of man, and I want him emotionally available, and I want this, and I want him to talk to me, and I want him to do. But when we do all that stuff, we get the label of being like a beta male, and he's weak, and he can't do this, and he like, okay, so you want me to be a dick? No, I don't want you to be that either. I want you kind of in between. Well, there isn't, that's a hard line to walk on for a man.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why when we're walking that line and we feel like we are not appreciated, we just disappear and be lonely. Where it's very difficult. And I'm just telling you from my point of view, where I'm lucky, my son's still at home. I've had him since he was 6 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I got a divorce, I took my son. I've never not had him, right? So he's very much a cornerstone of my existence. During my early days of divorce, I moved out of state, so I was alone a lot because I didn't know a lot of people in Vegas. But my son has always been the rock, right, of what I had to do and what I have to do this, make sure he does this. So he was my driving force of everything.
To make you live.
Yeah. Well, and since he was little, it's not like he could do it on his own. You know what I mean? Where now
he gave you a purpose.
He gave me a purpose, and men need purpose, period. And it's funny because I think some women will take men's liking them as an obsession instead of looking at them like a purpose.
Explain that.
So like wanting to do everything with them or making them a very high priority in their life. Some people will go, you're just obsessed with me. You're obsessive. And, you can't just make it all about me. You're right. But if a man knows he's good with himself and I'm okay and I'm happy, it's not an obsession. It's you're my purpose in life now. Let's say you don't, your children are all out of the house. You can't say that with, although I think your mate should be always your secondary purpose, even above your children. Because without that, your children won't have the cornerstone of having people. And that doesn't even mean a married couple. If you get with somebody and they have kids, it should be you guys and then your children.
Well, that's just the way it should be, though, because there's a man and a woman. They get together. They raise their kids. Kids go off. They're still the man and woman. And that's
Correct.
The way they should be and started as being.
Right. If you start like that, it will always be like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that you become a purpose in life. Your mate should be a purpose, at least to me. I think, and I don't find it being obsessive. Look, my ex-wife would go out dancing, do all kinds of shit, but still my purpose was her, right? Make sure that all the things are getting done, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's what that should be, a purpose. And I think vice versa. As a woman, your man should be your purpose as well.
Right.
And take that as you will, whatever you think a purpose is.
No, it definitely is. It's as a woman, that's your person. That's your strength. That's your protector. That's your nurturer. That's your rock. So you have to, I feel like you have to put them in a good place and think of them and do for them as much as you can, just like I would want that in return. Mm-hmm. That's what makes a good relationship.
Exactly. And I think that when you have those things, you become less lonely. I've seen people in relationships that live in the same house, sleep in the same bed, and are more lonely than the person who is alone in their own house.
That was me. That was me for quite a while.
Yeah. I've seen it with
there was no connection.
Lots of them. Mm-hmm. Well, or even if there was a connection at some point, something is pulling you apart. Mm-hmm. Or the relationship's been dead for years, but you've stayed there because you can't afford to move out.
Right.
And that's also quite common.
Yeah.
A girl I worked with, same. She had to stay in a relationship for many years after it was pretty much dead because neither of them could afford to live their own life. So I think as we grow older and we're in a generation of at least the 50s, 50 something years old, loneliness is going to be there. And since men and women now are having their own issues with wanting to be in relationships, and this is of all ages, loneliness is going to become bigger.
Well, yeah, because less people are staying together than ever before, too.
Yeah, and now just not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Where people are giving up on dating because it's a lot. It is, and I think that dating's a whole other show. We'll get into that. I just think that it's just very difficult for either side to come to a middle ground of what they're looking for and what you like. It's just very difficult. I've seen so many dating profiles. The first thing that it says is love to travel, love to travel, love to travel. Like, that's awesome. I think most people love to travel, but how realistic is that? I heard something today on my way home from work, listening to a podcast, that was very interesting way of looking at things about life in general. He said, happiness is how you feel the best during the dull moments, because most of life is dull. And I was like, yeah. And he was more or less talking about relationships. He goes, look, everyone can be happy sitting on a beach in Hawaii. It's not difficult.
But can they, though? Because if people aren't happy to begin with, no geography is going to make them happy.
No, that's true. But he's saying that it's easier to be happy. And you might not be happy with the girl you're there with, but you might be happy for yourself sitting on a beach.
Yeah.
But his thing was being happy with someone when you're sitting at the breakfast table answering emails. Mundane, dull, regular moments, because most of our life is that. And there are moments of loneliness that you can be extremely happy because you don't have this headache or that headache or this or that, whatever that is. I've seen people in relationships that struggle so much because they're not themselves. They play a part. They play the part of whoever they think that person likes. And it's the death of you on the inside.
Yeah.
Again, you end up just being lonely because you're playing a character that they really like, but it's
not really
person.
who you are.
Yeah. And I think that's just a tunnel of loneliness. You can just you'd be in the same room with somebody going, God, it'd be nice if I could talk about this, but I know they don't like it. And I've never told them I liked, African tree frogs. So loneliness, I think, is not just being alone, but it's a state of mind.
Oh, it absolutely is.
You can be in a room full of people and be very alone. And it's a scary thing, I think, for our generation going forward, but because Gen Xers are so, we're so hard headed, right? We were latchkeyed. We were, we had to do all the chores around the house before the parents got home. And we grew up very, very fast. And we were able to stay out until all hours of the night. We were just a different breed where I think the younger generation might they're not lonely because they have a phone in front of them. And they think that
I don't know. I
is
still think that being on the phone is nothing like being with someone in person.
100%. But I think that they've grown up with it so much that they feel less lonely on the phone. Now, I don't think mentally that is true. Like I love texting friends down the street and in San Diego and across the country. Awesome. Because you get to still feel like you're in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nowhere near sitting in the same room with them shooting the shit.
Not at all.
It's not even a close comparison. The only thing that I think is somewhat close is FaceTime.
Mm-hmm. That does help.
Because at least you can see expression and feel the laughter build. Or, my friend in North Carolina, that's all we would really do. We'd video chat because we found it easier to just chat instead of texting all the time. But there was nothing like, sitting down in the living room with each other and letting, our minds go bonkers and then laughing for no reason.
Right.
I see myself like my views on relationships have changed, and they probably shouldn't, but they have. I used to be like this hopeless romantic, and I'm becoming very much less interested in relationships, where I'm just like, it's a lot of work. The ease it is to just drop something has really kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. It's a lot. So I feel like I could just probably be alone now. Now, I don't know if that's 100%. I'm alone a lot anyway, even in my own house, because my son's a gamer and he spends a lot of time in his room. So I spend a lot of time sitting on the couch watching TV with my dog. Right. Thankfully, I got a dog.
Yeah.
He's, man's best friend is really kind of a very poignant statement. I used to have dogs. I had several dogs over being married. And I never felt that way with my dog.
Really?
Or her dog. No, I mean, they were great dogs, but at that, and I'm still a cat person. I think cats are the coolest. But I had cats and they're different. Now that I have a dog and he's very
different,
energetic, and very, very smart, very energetic, very on spot with, like, he loves things to be on time. He has a regiment and I try to stick to it. And I was telling my son one day, he's like, if I ever had the dog, I could take care of him. And I was like, you can't get up in the morning and feed him.
Mm-hmm.
My dog gets fed at 5 a.m. every single day, no matter what. Even if I go out, put food in his bowl and walk back and get in bed and go back to sleep.
He's still getting it.
Yeah. I like to keep him on. He has a schedule and he knows if my door is open, which is not a lot, but if I leave it open, he'll jump up on the bed and he will remind me it is 5 a.m. and he'll start whimpering, whatever it is. So I could probably, I've almost thought I'm just going to become a man and his dog. My dog's 3, so he's young. I got a lot of years left with him, so I could spend tons of time with him. I also, in my own head, I'm thinking, since I'm going to have a lot of time off and a lot of it, I'm thinking of packing up my car and driving across the country just for shits. I have a to-go kit that I have microphones and a mixer and a laptop. I can do this show on the road in whatever state I'm in.
That's right. You could.
Out of a hotel room.
Right.
So I just think that we in general, it's okay to be lonely. I think it's a very natural state, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have to very much use kid gloves with if you're feeling utterly lonely.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Exactly. I notice with my dad, since my mom died, we're coming up on the 14th anniversary, and I could feel his depression getting worse, and I could see him being just crabby all the time, and not very grateful for anything that gets done for him. Just really, he's just pissed off, and part of it is he's, mom's gone, and he just lost another cousin that he was close to. And then he's starting chemo, and the house isn't done, and my mom's not here, and he doesn't have, his friend is sick, so he's looking at him not being around anymore. So he's starting to feel his world closing in on him,
right?
And it's causing a lot of angst inside of him. And it's hard to live with that. I see it, I know it, I feel it myself. I lost all those things too in a different capacity, but still, and it's hard for me because I work hard to be not depressed. I didn't know if you know this, but I was diagnosed with a low-grade depression years ago that's never really gone away, and I've probably had it my whole life. And so I work really hard to keep my head up, and I work at it. It is a full-time job, and I do very well because it's taken me a lot of years to get to this point, and I'm handling it. But I realize that dealing with people that aren't working against it are dragging my ass down too. Like, it's not that hard. So even though I've worked it, it's still right there.
Right.
So it hasn't been that easy.
I think that there are people that will become depression anchors in your life.
What do you mean by that?
That is, as much as you're working at it, they're also being an anchor and dragging you back into it.
Yeah.
Where it'll take you into despair and really kind of drag the people into loneliness, where you'd rather not be around people,
right?
Not be around your friends, not hear shit, not watch the news, literally disappear off the planet.
Absolutely.
And I can see why. I really can. There's days where I've taken a day off from work. My son has gone to work. I got up, took my dog to the park, came home, and didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, I didn't shower. Nothing. And I find myself, those are the days where I drag myself into loneliness, and I'm like, I'm not good. I'm not happy that I'm alone, but I work my way to just find something to do. Like we all do these. We find a Netflix series to watch that's, 12 episodes that are an hour long that you'll just disappear into. Or you find music to listen to,
or a podcast or an art project.
Right. Those exactly. I just found a very cool app for my phone, or not my phone, for my iPad.
Really?
I forgot what it's called. It's an art thing. It's a paint by numbers. It's called Zen something.
And anyway, you just push the number, and then you push the.
And it's a game basically. There's numbers on the side, and you click the number, and it highlights where they're at on the screen, and you have to hit them. Some of them are very big. Some of them are super tiny. So tiny that there's a hint button. It'll help you find it.
Wow.
But it's supposed to be this. It's a game. It's probably a game for a lot of different things. It's to keep your mind going, which we all need, mostly at this age. The funny thing about it is it really kind of keeps you in this Zen thing of just keeping yourself going. I really enjoyed it. I did them today. I'll send you a video of and then when you're done doing the whole color project, it plays you a video of how you did it.
Meaning what?
like it shows you how you did the numbers, because you can skip numbers. You can skip whatever you want. So like you can blow up the picture on your phone. And like I did this picture of a cat and I did the cat first. And then I moved over to, there's a bird on, I did the bird after that, because you can see the numbers on them. And I'll send it to you. You can see basically how you colored it, because you don't have to do it in any way
particular order
of any order. So for me, it's really good because it's a time killer, but it also keeps my mind moving.
Yeah. Puzzles are good for that.
Yeah. And again, it's also keeps you from being alone.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that you got to be careful about how often you also do that.
Agreed. You need people, and fortunately, that's why I'm glad people go to work. I mean, I feel bad for the people that are home all the time and they're single and they don't have to go out to do anything, because I couldn't imagine being that lonely. I couldn't. But
I couldn't either. I couldn't imagine being so lonely I want to die.
Yeah.
I've never been there.
No.
So I feel that
either.
I feel that I'm good there. Now, I will tell you that I've had, I think everyone's had some kind of thought of not wanting to be alive, but it wasn't because I was lonely.
Yeah.
That's not why. I do okay by myself. I think that I definitely put things in order where I can go, okay, this is that. But I also do try to fill that time. Right. I don't just sit and wallow in my own shit.
Who's going to pick you up if you do that? Like, who's going to be there? What is the point?
Right. But like I said, like I'll find things to do. Like one day I was like, oh, I need to spring clean. And I went through cabinets and cupboards, and I took out 2 like 30-gallon trash bags worth of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, this has been here for years. I don't
need it.
Yeah, I don't need it. We need to, as people, though, I think, mostly as we get older, I agree with you. We have to find time to be around friends, family, other human beings in some capacity.
Absolutely.
A guy that I used to work, well, I still work with him, but he works at a different branch, called today and said something on the phone to me that I found funny. And I don't want to dig too deep into it because I don't want to give it away. But he had this idea and he was joking. And I went, hey, that would be a good app. We should try to develop this app. And he was like, yeah, that's kind of funny. And then I started rolling these things at him. And he goes, are you serious? I go, we should really look into this, because it was something to quell loneliness. Let's just say that without getting too deep into it. I'll tell you off there. But I think he said his wife is out of town for a couple of days, and this is kind of how we rolled into this. And I was like, yeah, dude, like I get that. It's another guy at my work. His wife went away for 7 days on business, and he has issues with her like every other husband and wife. And she drives him bonkers and blah, blah, blah. Loves his wife to death. To see him for 7 days was very difficult because you can tell what it did to him.
Really?
Yeah. Like you can tell he was just like, hey, he'd come in. What did you do last night? Hung out with some friends, went to the bar, had a couple of drinks, went home. Like didn't get hammered, didn't just like, so he's filling space, which is good. I think that's a plus. Now I told him, you probably shouldn't drink every night.
Right.
That's
just going to bring you down lower.
Yeah. That's another thing I think that is very scary about loneliness. Filling that void with drugs or alcohol is a very, very slippery slope of danger.
I agree. Because it would be so easy for it to become an addiction, and then something that you have to be dependent on to be happy. Right. It doesn't sound right at all.
I thankfully I don't have that. I don't have an addictive personality, which is good for me. Although I've been told I'm obsessive, so maybe there's a bit to that. But
Everybody's got to be something.
I mean, yeah, I just like hard. I'm glad I'm not like that, because I've seen other people fall into alcohol like horribly bad, like coming to work drunk. I had a guy call in. Remember, there was a bar. It was a sports bar in Woodland Hills. Forgot what it was called. Anyway, it was a sports bar, big sports bar. He called in sick from that bar, which was across the street from our work. He could have walked over. And I was like, he's like, yeah, dude, I'm not going to make it. I'm across the street. I'm hammered. I can't work today. And I was like, no, you better make your ass in here. And he came in, and we had made a pot of coffee for him. We had a couple of hours where the schedules overlapped.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, go in the back, lay down for an hour. And then when you get up, and we pumped coffee into him, we all left, and he worked the rest of the night.
Damn.
But it was like, I don't want to crap on people who have alcoholism. Because it's definitely a hole that you have to dig your way out of.
Absolutely.
But I'm just very glad that I don't have those kind of tendencies, because it'll drive loneliness into something very, very bad. Then
so
you
let
end
me
up
ask you, what do you do to combat your loneliness?
I fill it with entertainment. That's what I do. I can easily get into a series and disappear into that for hours and hours and hours, and I'm fine. But could I do that for weeks on end? I don't know. I'm going to test that theory. I'm going to test the theory soon.
Right. When you get your surgery.
Yeah. I mean, I could be out of work for 4 months.
Yeah.
So filling that time may be very, very difficult. So
I don't have a hard time filling time when I'm not at work or school. Never did have a hard time with that. I could fill it. Right.
I mean, I can fill it too, but my thing is mostly this time around, I'm going to not have a right arm. I'm, like filling the time really is going to be difficult, because what can I do? I can go and hang out with people. That will be what I need to do. I'm definitely going to probably eat Chi-Chi's more. You know what I mean?
That's the restaurant, not the...
Yes. The rest are one of our favorite restaurants in the San Fernando Valley for people who don't live in California or anywhere near where we live.
You know what I always thought I would do? If, like, say you break an arm, your arm that you use for your dominant arm.
Yes.
I always thought that I wanted to try a painting class, where they do those beer and wine or paint and wine sort of classes. I wanted to do that solely with my left hand to see if, just to practice, just to get used to doing things more left-handed. Because one of my biggest fears is not being able to wipe my ass if my arm is broken or my shoulder needs to be fixed. Or that's why I asked you, did you buy the bidet yet?
I'm going to test that theory.
I know.
Well, here's the thing. Even though I get a bidet, let's say I get one, and they're the coolest things in the world. If you've never used one, they're amazing. There's nothing better than shooting warm water on your butthole.
Yeah.
But that being said, what happens if I'm out and about and got to use the toilet?
Yeah. What happens?
I wipe and I find a way to do it. So look, I had someone tell me very bluntly, it doesn't matter. You're going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have a choice. If for 4 months I can't do something, I'm going to learn to do it. He said, you're going to learn to eat, right? You're going to learn to eat with, and learn how to really do stuff one-handed, like you're losing an arm. And I was like, oh, and he goes, you need to go to the gun range with a bunch of loaded magazines so you don't have to load them. I have a bunch of magazines here that I can load. or I take that back, that my son will load.
Right. I was going to say, how you going to do it?
I won't be able to do it. And then go and shoot left-handed. And and I will have to shoot literally one-handed because my right arm will be stuck against me.
That's true.
So it'll be fun. There was a couple other things that someone had told me that I'm going to, obviously, wipe my butt, eat, writing. Heaven forbid I got to sign my name on anything.
I've been doing that for years just because I worry about that too. So
yeah, my writing left-handed is absolutely atrocious. So thankfully we live in a world where you type a lot of shit now, so I don't have to worry about that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And so I have a mouse for my computer here that is ergonomically correct for my right hand. Can't use it left-handed. It's not a regular mouse. So I went on the old Amazon and I bought the cheapest mouse I could feasibly buy. It's like $8. And I'm going to have my son, either that or I'll set it up right before my surgery. I'm going to have my mouse. The buttons will be turned the other way so I can do them left-handed because I edit the show. Right. So I'm going to learn how to use my computer. And then I can only type with one hand. So that's going to be fun. So the week before, I'm going to literally start setting up my house to be left-handed.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. But I will be alone. And that also is a tad scary to me.
Well, you need to find things to keep your brain occupied and happy. In order for you not to have the lonelies while you're going through it. They say that if you sit in gratitude, you can't be sad. Like if you're constantly saying, thank you for my day. Thank you for this. It helps to alleviate the stress and to calm you down. And it makes it to where you can't be unhappy. So I would say definitely try that. Try to meditate. Try to do things you're not normally, used to doing. And see if you could open up a new hobby for yourself or something that you could do around other people and it could become something. Like you're getting 4 months to reinvent yourself. Shit, let's do it,
Right. Maybe I should take some ayahuasca and see what happens.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm just joking. Just
joking. Whatever you want to do.
Not alone. You shouldn't do that shit alone.
Right.
I kind of agree with you, though. I think meditation is going to be a solid thing. Mm-hmm. My plan is to, as much as I can, take my dog to the dog park and run the living shit out of him.
Yeah.
So then he's tired. So I don't have a lot to do with him at home. And he's really good. But, I go really early in the morning. So when I go with him, it's basically just me and him. And I have one of those, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a ball thrower. It's like this. Like you put the ball in it and you throw it and it helps you throw it really far. It's called Chuck It. I've been doing that at the park left-handed.
There you go.
Getting ready. So, and surprisingly, I can chuck the shit out of that thing with my left hand. I felt pretty good about it. It's funny. I was telling my boy, I'm going to try to find food that I can pick up with my hands.
That's another thing. Or try to find like different ways of eating, with where you don't have to pick it up with a fork.
Right. Where I don't have to cut it. Right. Or I don't have to cut it. Where I'm going to try to meal prep as much as I can too. And if he can help me with the meal prep, I can literally eat it with just a fork. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's going to be.
I'm sorry. I think another thing that helps combat stress is turning on music.
Yeah, I'm a big music buff, so you
can't be lonely when you're dancing around enjoying the music and doing stuff that makes you happy or takes you back to memories of good times. And so I think music's always good for that.
Right.
And it does calm down the stress too.
I think thankfully I go to physical therapy quite soon, like 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, that'll be 2 days a week.
There you go.
So that's actually also very good. So I'll get out, have to do that. And then gym. I need to get back to the gym. So I'm only going to be walking, and I'm going to try to work my left arm lightly just to kind of, I'm doing it more for repetition than I am anything
Strength.
else. Well, and just to get up and go do something, like start a routine. So I have this routine of doing something all the time. It'll keep me from going bonkers.
Having a routine and sleeping well. You got to make sure that you're sleeping well, because that does cause depression. That's
going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because I have to get one of those little sleeping wedges.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't roll over. So I'm going to have to kind of sit in the same place. That's going to be the hardest thing that I'll probably go through, period.
Yeah.
So, but thankfully, I have a really big couch. So I think that what I'll probably end up doing is sitting in a certain place. And if I can get naps in during the day, that's what I'll do.
You got to.
But
because your depression will get worse, and which will make you more lonely if you're not sleeping.
I think what I need to do also is really be in contact with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm lucky because with you, I can come out there, and you work, you don't work a regular person schedule.
Yeah, no, I don't.
So that makes it very, very easy to say, hey, tomorrow you want to get lunch, or tell me what day you're available for lunch, and I can do that.
Right.
That's going to be, and then I'm going to try to hit up local people that like for lunch, like say, hey, you want to meet for lunch for an hour, and just so I can get out. And
you just got to be careful, because that'll be a lot of money you're spending on going out every day.
Yeah. Oh, I won't do it every day. I won't do that every day.
Yeah.
I said,
I would do it every freaking day if I could.
See, I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to meal prep, and that'll be good. But like I said, I'm going to work on things. Like I'm going to go back to work on this show like I did in the very beginning. And I'm going to kind of research things and really kind of deep dive and get more interesting topics. So, we kind of get ahead of ourselves and really give people what they're looking for.
Nice.
All righty. Any last words on being lonely?
If you notice that somebody's starting to get depressed or starting to feel like they're lonely, take some time out and visit with them. I think it would help not only them, but you.
Yeah, I would say if you are the lonely one,
reach out.
Reach out to anyone.
Yep.
Anyone that will hear your plight, because that one person may just turn you in the other direction. It's a hard life out there. It really is. And it's so difficult with people who are taking their own lives. So let's not go down that road.
Exactly. There's no need for that.
Correct. And on that, make sure you check us out on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, X. I'm on there all the time now. Check us out on pretty much anywhere you can hear a podcast, but definitely Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, iTunes Music, YouTube, but we're everywhere.
So still on iHeart?
Still on iHeart. We're everywhere. It's funny how many people listen to this show on different things.
Nice.
And it's an opinion show. Don't get it twisted. Keep coming back every Wednesday. That's Tina. I'm Rob. We'll see you in a week. Bye.
See ya.